So one of our API challenges is to delete all the to-dos in the system. I currently have 10 to-dos in here. I'm going to delete them all, but I'm going to delete them all using command line tools. So I'm going to use curl to access the API, which is going to get the to-dos and it's going to delete the to-dos. I'm going to use JQ to parse the information that comes back from the API. I'm going to use xargs to pass parameters into the curl command to do the deletion. So you do not have to be a command line expert to do this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Bruno to return all the to-dos for this particular challenger. So let me take that challenger ID, put it in the X challenger heading and issue a GET request on the to-dos endpoint, and we should see all the to-dos. Now, I can't remember how to issue a curl command for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Bruno to generate it. If I look in the left sidebar here, click on the hamburger icon, generate code, then in the shell curl, it has generated the curl command I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, go over to my command line and issue the command. Now I'm using a Windows subsystem for Linux here, so I've got access to all the Linux commands. This just makes the video easier to repeat for Windows or Mac. Curl is a little bit harder to use on Windows if you're not using the Windows subsystem. So I'm just using the Windows subsystem here. It makes it easy. You can learn all about it on Microsoft.com. There'll be links in the solution notes for this. So I've issued the GET request. On the URL to get the to-dos, I put the X Challenger header in to allow me to see the to-dos we've got. And I can see that we have, well, it looks like there's about 10 there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to feed that information into a file to make working with this a little bit easier. So if I now ls, I can cat todos.json. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed that file into JQ. So if I do JQ and the command filter I'm going to use, I'm just going to do dot here and we'll ask it to process todos.json. And we can see it's pretty printed the file, so I can see exactly what's in there. So what we have is we have an object which has an array of to-dos, and each of those to-dos has an ID. So I need to learn a little bit about JQ to issue the command. So rather than get everything, what I want to do is I want to get all the to-dos, which is an array. So then we can see all the objects in there. And what I really want from there is I want the IDs. Great. So I've now got a list of IDs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that into a file just to make things a little bit easier. Now, in order to delete an item, all I have to issue is a delete command on the to-dos endpoint with a parameter for the to-do that I want to delete. Now, I could issue this command, one, then edit it in here, then issue it, edit it, then issue it multiple times, but I want to try and learn how to automate this a little bit. Normally, if I'm going to automate, I would just use code, but it's useful to have multiple tools that you can call upon to give you more variability and flexibility in how you do your work. So we're going to use curl to do this. Now, what I want to do then is issue a curl command, but I don't want to issue a get. I want to issue a delete. And I want to issue it for a particular value. Now, how can I feed that value in? I already have a list of the IDs in a text file. So what I can do is I can use a command line utility called xargs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cat that file, which is going to list it. Cat ids.text. I'm going to pipe that, which just means pass the results from doing the cat command, which is going to list all the IDs, and I'm going to pass it through into xargs. So I want to do xargs -I because I want to pass in the command, and I'll call it percentage. What this will do is it will read all the lines at IDs.text, and I can access the value 5, 1, 2, 10, 6, 4 using the percentage symbol there. So I want to pass that into todos /percentage. So each time this calls cURL, it will replace that percentage sign with the value from the file. I do not want to pass it into todos.json. So this command should read the IDs.text, pass the information into xargs, which will call cURL to issue a delete request on the URL and solve the challenge. So let me issue that command and double check that all the to-dos have been deleted by calling the get request again. And let's just render that on screen rather than passing into JSON. There we go, the to-dos is empty. And if I go back to the progress, I should see, scrolling down the bottom, that this challenge has been completed. There we go. So you could do this by writing some simple code. Many of the REST API tools, the clients, will allow you to do this, but I also find it very useful to know how to do this from the command line, because then even on the most basic machine or setup, I have the ability to test and automate the APIs.